Russia's interior is burning again, but this time, the fire is nowhere near the front lines. In the early hours of December 25th, Ukrainian long-range drones struck a major fuel facility at Temryuk port in Russia's Krasnodar region. Within minutes, massive oil storage tanks were engulfed in flames. Thick black smoke rose into the sky, visible across the Sea of Azov. By sunrise, one reality was impossible to ignore. Ukraine had reached deep inside Russian territory and hit a critical economic target. Russian regional officials later confirmed that at least 2 oil tanks were set ablaze. The fire quickly spread across an area of roughly 2,000 square meters and continued expanding. Emergency services were forced into an urgent race to stop the flames from reaching nearby fuel reserves. Nearly 100 firefighters and more than 20 emergency vehicles were deployed as the situation threatened to spiral out of control. And before we go any further, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps support the channel. Authorities were quick to minimize the damage, stating that there were no casualties and no environmental spill. But the visuals told a different story. Fuel infrastructure was burning, storage capacity was compromised, and Russia's long-standing claim of internal security took another serious blow. A strategic oil facility inside Russia was on fire, and that alone speaks volumes. Temryuk port is far from a random target. Located on the Taman Peninsula, directly across from Russian-occupied Crimea, it plays a key role in southern Russia's logistics network. The port handles oil exports, fuel distribution, and supplies that support Russian military operations. In simple terms, Temryuk is part of the system that keeps Russia's war machine running. That is precisely why it was hit. This strike reflects a broader shift in Ukraine's strategy. Kyiv is no longer limiting the conflict to trenches and artillery along the front. Instead, it is expanding the battlefield by targeting the infrastructure that allows Russia to sustain the war. Fuel depots, refineries, gas plants, and transport hubs have become priority targets, and Temryuk represents all of them at once. And Temryuk was not the only site under attack that night. While firefighters battled the blaze in Krasnodar, Ukrainian drones struck multiple regions across Russia. A large oil refinery in the Rostov region was hit, triggering explosions and fires. A gas processing facility in Orenburg, nearly 800 kilometers from Ukraine, was forced into a partial shutdown. Reports also emerged of fires at a military airfield in Adygea. Russia's defense ministry later admitted that more than 140 drones were detected across Russian airspace overnight. That number alone tells a powerful story. It shows how stretched Russia's air defenses have become. Flights were suspended at regional airports, air defense systems were activated across multiple oblasts, and even Moscow was placed on alert. Yet, despite all of this, oil tanks at Temryuk still burned. For years, the Kremlin promoted the idea that Russia's heartland was untouchable, that distance and air defenses would keep the war far away from daily life. That illusion is rapidly collapsing. Ukraine is deliberately targeting assets that are expensive, difficult to repair, and essential to Russia's ability to fight. Oil storage facilities are not just infrastructure. They represent revenue, military fuel supply, and strategic reserves. These strikes are not isolated incidents. Over recent months, Ukraine has sharply increased the pace of long-range attacks on Russian energy infrastructure. Multiple oil facilities have been targeted in a single month alone, with Krasnodar region repeatedly hit. This is not random escalation. It is sustained pressure. Ukraine's calculation is straightforward. Russia's war effort depends on money, fuel, and logistics. Disrupt those, and the balance of the war begins to shift, even if the front lines barely move. Each strike forces Russia to divert manpower, equipment, and air defenses away from Ukraine and toward protecting its own territory. The economic consequences are already growing. Russia's energy sector is under sanctions, price caps, and restricted market access. Add physical vulnerability into the mix, and the risk increases further. Insurance costs rise, buyers demand deeper discounts, and revenue shrinks. Every burning tank makes Russian oil harder to sell and more expensive to move. There is also a psychological impact the Kremlin cannot ignore. Every successful strike deep inside Russia weakens the narrative of control. It reminds citizens that distance no longer means safety, and it signals to investors and regional leaders that the cost of this war continues to rise. The fires at Temryuk are not just about oil. They are a warning. Russia's rear areas are vulnerable, its defenses are overstretched, and Ukraine is prepared to keep pushing deeper. This war is entering a new phase, one defined not only by territory, but by endurance, economic pressure, and long-term resilience. We'll continue tracking how these strikes evolve, what they mean for Russia's ability to fund and fuel the war, and how long its infrastructure can withstand this growing pressure.